I've changed the way that I manage my research projects inside of Obsidian and going into Morgen, Morgen being my calendar app, Obsidian being my note-taking and writing tool, and I wanted to share what I'm doing now. As a bit of orientation for those new to my vault, you can see on the left-hand side we have the bookmarks plugin. It's a core plugin in Obsidian, which just has some bookmarks in here for quick navigation. The research projects file is the one at the top. You can see this is the one I have open right here. At the top, we have a data view query, which I'll go over in a second. But then on the right, we also have another file open, and you can see at the top with the breadcrumbs, this is in my projects folder. This research project file is in my other folder, and you can see the folders down here in the files, again, core plugin. There's the canvas files. There's only 15 in there. The other folder, which has Excel documents, Word documents, PDF documents, and this research projects file. I then have the projects folder. You can see there's 784 files in there, plus 10 folders, so they're all my research projects and other small related projects. Then my sources folder, which has over 6,000 files in for various sources from videos, podcasts, blogs, and other things that are sources. And then my templates folder. The reason I have a templates folder is because the plugins that use templates want to know where to look, so I separate them. That's the only reason I have a separate folder. Then on the right side, I always have the outline, again, core plugin in Obsidian open, and this shows me all of the headings. So I'm currently in the fun in sports coaching file, so it's showing me the headings. If I go to hook, go to 3 myths, young and old, it moves me up and down the file. If I click on this other file, it changes to those headings, so school, coaching, education, etc. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. I then have the core search next to the outline if I want to search for anything. I then have the backlinks, which I rarely go into, and then the outgoing links, which I go into even less, mainly because if I go down to the bottom of a file, you can see I have the backlinks down the bottom, and this is where I'm normally looking at the backlinks rather than in the side panel. If I push Alt-C on my keyboard, it brings up Morgen, and this is how I manage my life, everything, tasks, projects, events, everything. So if I go to the week view, you can see the layout is kind of similar. So on the left side, there is a ribbon, and on the ribbon, you can go to the open invites, the booking page, Morgen Assist, which is the travel time workflows. So you can see automatically adds travel time. If I have a location in an event, all those sorts of calendar things. And as you can see, I've got the tasks sidebar open at the moment, and this has the overdue, the due today, due tomorrow, due soon, and then some task lists. So if I close these down, you can see these are the 3 task lists I'm showing, but these are Morgen specific tasks. You can add all of these other tasks in here, but this is the one that I'm using at the moment, which is the Obsidian plugin. I'll get to that in a minute, but in my main calendar view, this may look a bit messy for some of you, this is where I have all of my tasks, all of my habits, all of my projects, all of the due dates. So you can see this is a due date, this is a task. So on any task, so if we go into, let's say, the project management task, which is a video I'm working on right now, I can left click, it shows me what it is as like a quick view. If I double click, it lets me edit. And this is important for the project management inside of Obsidian because I've got my planned start and planned end. Now, this is scheduled time on the calendar. So from 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock, that's the scheduled block of time. But because this is a Morgen task, there's also a due date. So this is different from other calendar tools. There is a due date, DUE date, and a planned start and planned end. However, because Morgen also allows for multiple blocked slots, so you can see here, there's multiple sessions of this project management because I actually did some work on it yesterday. If, for example, I don't finish it today and I want to do it tomorrow, I can drag another task for project management into another slot because it may take me longer than expected. And when I double click, you can see the planned start and planned end is different for this task than it is for this task, which means if I have a date property in Obsidian, it can't really map to planned start or planned end because now it could have 7, 10, 15 different dates and times on it, which means due date is the date that needs to be mapped inside of Obsidian. And that's also true for the Notion integration and most other integrations in Morgen because Morgen has planned start and end, which could be multiple dates, and then the due date, which is just one due date. So it maps to the due date, not the planned start and planned end. Now, just for context, the integration that I have at the moment with Morgen and Obsidian is in beta. It's beta testing for insiders. So if you have any ideas, let me know in the comment section below and we can let the team know. But some of the workflow I have at the moment is a bit of a hacky workaround, which you'll see. So what this actually looks like in practice is me going Control-N on my keyboard for new. I push Enter because project is right at the top of my quick add. Then let's just say test. I push enter and it says OK. So now what it's done is created a file called test inside of the projects folder. It's then added my template, so this is the channel it's going to go on. This is a done tick box to see if it's done. It's then added a task with an ID and then all of the other template information for making a project, which is a research project, which goes on my other YouTube channel, which I'll have a link in the top right if you're curious. But you will have also noticed the test file has been linked underneath the inbox heading inside of my research projects file. Now this is where the workflow is a little bit odd, so I'm going to remove the ID, actually type ID and then generate unique ID because that's actually copied. So now I have a unique ID for this task, and just to make things easier to find it, I'm going to give it the highest priority. I'm going to say due date and then today. So now I have a task inside of the file that says test. It's the same name. If I open up my Morgen, then go to Obsidian and scroll up, you can see due today is the test task. It is in the projects folder and then it's called test. It's the highest priority and it's due for today. It's in the due today section. If I click, then click open in Obsidian, it will open the file. So let's close the file and then say open in Obsidian. There it is. I can then drag this onto today. So now I have scheduled the task. You can see a calendar's there. All sessions are in the past because it's currently then. So let's just move it into that slot there. Now I've moved it forwards. It's not going to say it's in the past. It said 4:30. Now when I double click, you can see we've still got the open in Obsidian button. We've got the name. I can add some notes to this task. We've got a planned start and planned end, which is what I was talking about earlier. That's the time that we've planned or blocked out on the calendar, but the due date is today. In this current version, I need to go back to Obsidian to actually change the day. So let's just change that to 9, so it's due tomorrow. And then it's going to change to tomorrow. It is quicker to actually just do this because it updates straight away, but Morgen takes a couple of seconds, so it's quicker to just go to Morgen and Obsidian. That may change in future updates, but you can see now it's planned, or double click, it's planned for today, but it's due tomorrow. And you can see it's also changed to due tomorrow. And something I do like is if, for example, I'm just looking through here and I'm actually in my Morgen tasks and I can't see the Obsidian task, if I left click once and then click open, it will open my Obsidian file. So if we go to tomorrow, fun in sports coaching, I think that one's already open, but you can see it's opened it twice now because this was the active tab I was on. So go back to Morgen, then go back to test, open, now I'm back in the test project. Then, as you can imagine, if you click the test task completed, it then makes the task in Obsidian completed. So if I go back to the Obsidian tab, it's just disappeared as I switched over. So if I tick it not completed in Obsidian, then it will come back up into Morgen just like that. Now, something that you may have noticed if you're familiar with the task plugin, I'll go through the setup in a second, the task completed doesn't get notified, I guess, or triggered when you complete it in Morgen at the moment. So you'd have to complete it in Obsidian to get the tick box and the date. But again, that's something that could be changed in future updates. And something else you may notice is I've unticked it, so I haven't completed it, but you remember the time slot that I blocked out? Well, it's gone at the moment. If I go up to the settings and say show completed tasks, you can see it thinks that it's been completed because that's the task slot, the time slot. So the time slot's been completed, but I've now said the task is not complete and that hasn't updated. I don't know whether they're going to change that or not. That again is one of those workflow discussions that we're troubleshooting at the moment. But back to Obsidian, how did I do all of this? Some of you may have some ideas about how I'm doing this, and what I'm actually doing, if I go to the settings, is I'm using the Quick Add plugin. So you can see if I go to community plugins, we scroll down, I've got Quick Add, I then have Templater, and that's basically it. They are the two that I'm using to make the project, and then I'm using the task plugin to help me manage the task information, so the due date, the priority, and the ID. Just to illustrate that, all of this here, so if I exit this drop down here is through the task plugin. So when I go ID, add the ID, generate a new ID, and then say due date today, and then highest priority, all of that is the task plugin. If I go to the project template, so that was the quick switcher project template, you can see right at the top I have this little bit of code which is through the templater plugin. And this here is an ID that Morgen automatically generates every time. So if I quickly go into the Obsidian setup, you can see I've linked the vault and then ID management, because Morgen needs to know what task is what. It needs an ID property. Add IDs to all tasks or only import tasks with existing IDs are the two current options. Now, when I create a new task, I want there to be a new ID. I'm trying to work out how to get that to function. But again, that's a workflow thing that we're talking about in the Discord. And these are the files that I've excluded from bringing tasks in, because I don't want tasks that are in my templates inside of Morgen because they're templated tasks. But Morgen still generates this ID on those files, which means when I make the new project, the ID is always the same, which obviously is an issue. So that's why I had to remove the ID earlier, because it came from the template and I need it unique. Now, while editing the video, I realized the issue. Inside of Morgen, in the Obsidian integration settings, you can see excluded folders. My excluded folder settings inside of Obsidian were outdated, and I had Danny templates rather than just templates. So I went back into Obsidian, went to files and links, scrolled all the way down, and you can see excluded files, manage, and then went to templates. So now the templates, the project template, this task isn't detected by Morgen, so it doesn't add an ID. So if we go new project test, now add the test task, you can see the task has been created without an ID, but let's just go out so it sort of updates itself. Now the ID, Morgen's generated an ID for the task, and now I don't have to sort of create the ID and then generate an ID. That makes life easier, and hopefully that was clear. But this script from templater says TP and then file.title. Essentially, add the file title in as the task. If I go into this test file and delete it, that was a hotkey to delete it, and then go Control-N, I'll go through this stuff in a second, and then type test2 just to prove that it's a little bit different, and enter. Now you can see that TP file title has taken the test2, because that's the file title, and just added it as the task. And again, just to reiterate, this ID is the same as this ID, so I'd need to remove ID and then generate unique ID. Let's just say due tomorrow, and then highest priority. I probably didn't need the highest priority actually for it to show inside of Morgen. Yeah, there you go. So test2 is now been added to Morgen because it's a task and it's got an ID, so when you tick it off, it'll show or not show. And it's actually just moved the due date because the test has gone. And when I say due date, if I go to the right, you can see test 2 is due tomorrow, so it's showing that it's due. If I click there, you can see, there you go, open, which is obviously really useful for when you're project managing inside of a calendar. You can see when it's due, so this project may be due, let's say next month, so 9, so now it's due in September. When it updates itself, let's go back to Morgen, let's calendar set, reduce those down, go there, and then let's go to next month. So the 29th is down here. You can see there's test 2, so you can see it's due then, but maybe I schedule it in another time. It's one of the things in Morgen, but that's how I'm using templater inside of this, I guess, setup. Let's just remove that so it's less cluttered, and then we want to see how I'm bringing it into this research project and bringing up the drop down menus and the rest of it. So actually, while we're here, you can see these are green, and that is because the done tick box. So if I scroll up, we've got the test 2. If I click done, so this is separate from the task, but when I click done, it will change the color inside of this file. You can see test 2 is now green, that is green. That's 2 other plugins that I'm using, which is the style settings and the supercharge links. Just for reference, go to style settings, supercharge links, done. So it's looking for the done property, and then initial, and then this one is actually green, not white. And if I go to supercharge links, you can see I've got done because that's the property I want, the attribute I want. I've added something in here, so we go to edit, attribute value, done is true. So when done is ticked, look for exact match, it will go green. So that's why it's green, that's why it's green. And that's how I look at all of these projects and say, okay, I've done these 3, but I need to work on those ones. So quick add. At the top, I have new. Now, this is a multi, so when I click on here, there's the multi option. There's basically a folder inside of Quick Add, which allows you to put all of these different commands inside of a multi-select option, which has a hotkey to it. That's what the lightning is, and for me, that's Control-N. If we go to hotkeys, type new, you can see Quick Add, new, Control-N, that's my hotkey. If we head back to Quick Add and then go to project settings, this is a project macro. So when I click on this settings here, it's taken me to the project macro. The other way to get there is by clicking manage macros. You can see I've got a few, go to configure, and then here we've got 2 different steps because there's 2 different parts of adding a new project. The first one being template. First thing I want it to do is actually find a template. So that's the templates folder I showed at the start. And then it's looking for the project template. Now that is this file right here with the templater script in and all this other information. So every time I make a new project, a file will have all of this templated information in it. But then I want to make sure I can choose the name of the project, and that's what this is. The file name project name is project name. That's what it's going to show me in the pop-up, and then it asks me for a value. So if I come back and go Control N and enter in on the project, you can see project name, because that's what I've called it, and then it's asking for a value. So this is where I would type in whatever I want the project name to be. You can add more information in here if you want, but that's all I need. Then create in folder. So when it creates the file, I could add this as a path for those that know templater, but I do it this way, create in folder. I want the new project to be put in the projects folder. So find the folder, select the folder, add it, and it's in projects. You could add it in subfolders and loads of other options, but I keep them all off because I just want the file in projects so it's stored somewhere, not cluttering up my files view. But I do want the file to open because at the moment I want to change the ID and add either a priority or a due date to it, but I also like to add a source link. So when I have a project idea, normally is a link to a video or a podcast, or I want to write something down for some research. So I want to actually open the file, and normally I want it in a new split because when I'm in Obsidian, I already have 2 files up. So that's where I'll see the 3 as I've got currently at the moment. And then I want to focus on the new pane because I actually want to type stuff. That's actually making the file. But I also want it in the research projects file, which is a different file. So I'm creating a task. And you can see this is capture 2. So if I go to the settings here, this is a template path, but this is a capture 2. So we've got capture, add capture choice. Yeah, I don't actually want that. Or template, and that's the template choice. So I've got one of each. I've got the template at the top, and then capture, create task at the bottom. And I could capture to active file, but what I want to do is actually select a file that I've already made, research projects, and I want to capture a task in it. So I'm going to not select any of these and insert after the inbox heading. That's what it's looking for. It's looking for, you can see there in the background, inbox is looking for that heading. And then I've added a custom format because what I want it to do, you can see this inside of here is the same as the script that I wrote in the template. So remember curly brackets, value project name. If I come out of here, go to project and look here, value project name. So this capture task is actually using the same input box as the template bit, and then it's adding square brackets around it. So you can see down here, project name. And what that's doing is adding a link to the file because that's the format that backlinks and outgoing links work inside of Obsidian. Then when I've added in a capture option, I've added in a macro option and called it project. Then when I click on project settings, I then select the macro. These are the macros. So I select project and then I just turn that on and off. I don't actually use the hotkey for the project because I'm always Control N and then enter. That's what I'm used to. I could probably set it just to Control N, but maybe that's something I'll do in the future. I'll figure it out. But yeah, so once I pushed enter, this project name goes into the name of the file for the template choice, but then also the name of the text that goes in between the brackets for the capture choice. So let's just say example, let's get rid of that space and then OK. Now I have an example file. It's added, you can see there's the example text, added the 2 brackets on the side, and there's the file with all the other information, but I don't need that. So let's get rid of that before I forget that it's there. And I should probably get rid of this one as well. And then Control D to get rid of that, close that down. And that is what I'm currently working with. The reason I have this data view query at the top, if I go into it, you can see what it is. It's just a table that's looking for the file links. It's showing the file link and it's called project inbox. That's all this is doing. Make table and call it project inbox. So there's the table, project inbox. There's nothing in it at the moment, but it's looking for any file inside the projects folder, and that's the projects folder here, not inside projects and books because I've got a book subfolder and food subfolder inside there, so I don't really want any of those showing. And then I'm filtering for where the file name doesn't contain shopping list because I've got a shopping list file in there for food, and obviously I don't want that to show in the projects inbox. And then where the file doesn't contain in links to research project. So essentially, if I open up Trampoline Handbook as an example, let's drag that over here. If I go to the backlinks of this page, you can see research project is there because it's linked here. So for those unfamiliar with the way outlinks and backlinks work in Obsidian, this Trampoline Handbook is an outgoing link from research projects to Trampoline Handbook. And the project inbox can see this and says, is there one? Yes, okay, don't bother showing it. If I remove this, now there's no outgoing link from research projects to Trampoline Handbook, which means there's no backlink or inlink. So Trampoline Handbook doesn't have an inlink from research projects, which means, hey, show this in the project inbox, you need to link this inside this file, in which case I go enter, type Trampoline Handbook, and now I've got an outgoing link in the research projects, which created the backlink in the Trampoline Handbook. It's now gone from project inbox. Hopefully all of that made sense, and I recognize that some of those topics were kind of advanced for beginner users of Obsidian, so I recommend having a look at some of the other videos or asking in the comment section or in the Discord about how to navigate some of these community plugins and create your own workflow. You can always book a call with me, there's a link on the website. But yeah, that's how I'm currently using Obsidian and Morgen. But exciting news, Morgen might be able to get the file as a task, but again, don't know. And just as a note, if you want to test this out with Morgen and Obsidian, join the Morgen Discord, and then we can work out getting insider access and all the rest of it. So, but yeah, I don't want to load the Morgen team up with too much. Apologies, developers. But maybe you get a couple of Obsidian users asking some questions.